choice for news. I'm Neil Networth, and today we're here primed for election season. This time, we actually have recorded footage of rallies. That's right, folks. The election candidates have decided to start doing their rallies, which has never been seen before during a Mirthcraft election. Today, we will be sharing with you glitchgates, and later today, we will hopefully be able to share soggies. Enjoy.
Good evening, fellow Mirthers. My name is Glitchcade, and I will be one of the runners in this year's election for owner. I was very close last year, with only losing out by only one vote. But this year, I'm ready to go for another go at it, and I'm more prepared than ever. Before I start off, however, I want to address some misinformation that I heard during the campaign stance last night from one of my opponents. This is of no true harm to anyone, and I'm certainly not trying to take a dig at this person in saying this. But one of my opponents did mention that they were the only one currently asked to run via strike. This is not entirely true. While they do hold with them a very weighted endorsement from Strike himself, I was asked to run this year. In fact, I was incredibly encouraged to run for a second time by Strike, with him saying, and I quote, "You have given a fuck for years, and it's genuinely a shock you haven't been elected yet." With all that out of the way, though, what is it that I bring on the table? Some of my policies, first and foremost, one of the key things I know that should be mentioned is server progression. Before we get too far into this, I will say I'm still currently working on an idea on how we should go about this, especially given the sheer difference between player progression times. So instead of me making the final decision, I believe that I will be leaving this up to you all. One of my opponents brought up the idea that I wanted to work alongside the house in order to better the server. Initially, this was true. I felt that there were things that would be better with the system we originally had. But since then, I have come to agree that the house is not something that should remain within the future of this server, especially considering my own time within it as a substitute. So I propose we fully dissolve the house, as we have clearly seen the house thus far has remained stagnant when issues were brought to be discussed. There has been no true outcome beyond just simply voting. No true conversations on whether the propositions would truly help or hurt the server, just voting yes or no. I will say though, I agree we should completely be done with the house. I believe we should keep its propositions. Instead, if I'm elected, we will bring decisions to be discussed amongst the whole of the server members and ultimately be decided upon by the owner. But what value of votes will each server member have? Whilst talking to others, I've decided for an option that puts value in the time people have played. A system that gives your vote more meaning depending on your server time. This way, we can not only encourage activity, but also have those who participate in the server the most and thus will be affected on these propositions the most say in what is passed. I've been told that my policies were viewed as generic and overly middle of the road. I understand that concern, and I apologize. My intention was to stay competitive in the campaign after my opponents began publishing their policy positions, not to offer ideas without substance. I want to push for ideas that I think will bolster our community, not completely change it. My goal is not to change Mirthcraft into something unrecognizable, but instead create an environment for old and new players that is more alluring than its current state. One example of this is I want to bring back activity checks. I know this is something that Mirth has been very back and forth about, but I believe it is for the better. While I do believe Mirth Miles are a good incentive for people to get onto the server, it is adamantly clear that the server is still facing problems with activity. Now, this is not to say that these will be unmerciful checks. I do not think that these should be done without the necessary grace. If we do reintroduce these checks, there will be given excuses for events outside of one's own control. Now, I want to address some things that I've heard over the course of the last few days. One of my opponents claims they inherited a dead server and single-handedly revived it through controversial changes. From my own experience, many of these issues we face today persisted, and in some cases, worsened. They've criticized my policies as generic and dismissed moderation as insufficient. As I've said, I was adapting to a rapidly developing campaign and will continue refining my ideas. That does not mean those ideas lack depth or intent. They also claim to be running on proven policies while asking voters not to judge them on their past. However, these so-called proven policies have often been poorly executed, and when we look back at past ownerships, those same methods were anything but consistently successful. Seasonal migration has been proposed as well, but without sufficient detail. While the concept itself isn't inherently bad, Mirth is designed to persist indefinitely. If implemented incorrectly, seasonal migration risks undermining the very foundation of the server. Not to mention, despite claiming not to rely on popularity, they prominently brandish endorsements while promoting policies that historically lasted no more than a week. Their policies and their platform is also largely inaccessible, instead limited to those online at the same time as themselves, delivered through a 40-page Minecraft book. Finally, I've been accused of not following through on promises. The policies referenced could only have been enacted if I were elected. That criticism is applicable to an incumbent, not a candidate currently running for office. And so, my commitment is very simple. Listen to the community, improve what works, fix what doesn't, and ensure Mirth has a future that benefits everyone, for the people, until the grave. Thank you.
Clap, 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 clap.